With a yo-ho-ho, it's Tale of the Toaster. Welcome to a slightly off-the-cuff video. I don't think this will be too big of one, and it will be pretty much entirely unedited, unscripted, all of that lot. But it's just kind of occurred to me in this moment that it would make quite a good discussion topic for a video, and I just wanted to jump immediately into it and just make one. Because you see, my buddy Ayez, also known as Inazuma 11 Perfect Picks, don't know if I've just butchered his name. It's a Spanish one, Ayez, who knows? I think I had it right the first time, but Inazuma 11 Perfect Picks has been a friend of the channel because we made the multi-language cover of the Season 1 opening song, Tachia Gario, before. We did it in all of the different languages that actually had an official cover of that opening song, so that was a project we worked together on video-wise. But one of the main things that he's been doing on his Twitter over the last 6 months exactly, or it will be 6 months when the poll is all over, is his yearly Inazuma 11 character popularity polls. I think this is maybe the third time that he's done this, but the Twitter account obviously gets bigger every year, so it always gets more and more voters with each subsequent one. And it's basically been a way to determine, according to the English, Spanish and French-speaking communities and anyone just who has visibility of these polls. So I don't think it extends quite as far as Japan a lot, generally speaking, but a bit of the USA. Anywhere that is kind of Europe aligning is usually made aware of these things. And we're in the final four now of his character polls, and the characters that remain are Mark Evans, the main character of the entire franchise. You've got Sean Frost, the fan favourite, the Season 2 stalwart. You've got Season 2's villain, turned Season 3 star striker, very popular guy in Xavier Foster, or Hiroto, Fubuki and Endo. And then, kind of surprisingly to me, we've also got the main protagonist of Inazuma 11 Go, Arian Sherwind, or Matsukaze Tenma, has snuck into the top four of what is meant to be the most popular Inazuma 11 characters of all time. Now, the methodology isn't perfect. These have kind of been staged as head-to-head Twitter polls where you just vote for your favourite to go through. And because the draw is entirely random, it's entirely possible that, Ozrock could be the 10th most popular Inazuma 11 character in history. But if he hits Axel Blaze in the second round, then he's eliminated. Random draw is always going to create some upsets. But this year has been a little bit different because there have been two separate rounds where some of the most popular defeated characters that went into some unbelievable draws were actually reinstated, which I don't think is something that had happened in previous years. It only happened twice, and so each time I think 5 characters got revived, and some of those revived characters were the same. But it is mainly to say, with this particular Final Four, we do have to take a bit of a deeper look at who they beat in the last round and see who random might have screwed over. Who could have potentially been in the top 4? Well, we'll look at them all. This is the top 8, shall we say, most popular Inazuma 11 characters. To get this far, you have to genuinely be very, very popular, and you can't... I think the previous revival round was just before that, bringing other characters back. So anyone who deserves to be there, I would say, is. I don't think anybody really missed their chances who was otherwise likely to be there. But Xavier got here by beating Aphrodite, another fan favourite from Season 1 and beyond. Ricardo de Rigo was there representing Go, who fell to what I would say is the tournament favourite in Sean Frost. I believe he won last year's. This is probably the biggest defeat of the not quite the quarterfinals, shall we say. Axel Blaze is somebody that everybody expected to be in the top 4, but he hit the main protag Mark Evans just that little bit early and was only able to get 1/3 of the votes. I voted for him because Jin paid me to on one of my streams, but I think they're pretty even anyway. And Arian Sherwind, you could say, had a reasonably fortunate draw at this stage against Faerun. But he still had to get here in the first place. Essentially, that's when we go back to round 6. So this was your top 8. It was Faye, it was Arian, it was Axel, Mark, Ricardo, Sean, Aphrodite, and Xavier. There's no Jude Sharp. I'll have to check who he went out to in particular. But I think the first point of discussion for me here is these 3, Mark, Sean, Xavier, if you told me they were going to be in the top 4, I'd believe you. I would pretty much expect the top 4 to be made up in some form of Mark, Jude, Axel, Sean, and Xavier. One of those has to miss out. That would have just been down to the random draw, which obviously ended up being Axel. I don't know how Jude fell earlier, but we'll find that out later. But I never in a million years thought that Arian, Matsukeze Tenma, stood a chance in hell, frankly, of making the top 4. But I think that's the discussion that made me want to make this video the most, because it's fascinating to me, because I just didn't realise that Arian is as popular as he was. All the way through my main Let's Plays, I was kind of taking the mickey out of him quite a lot, because we all take the mickey out of JP and everyone agrees with that one, but Arian is apparently secretly super popular. But maybe it's not secret. I want to see in the comments if this is obvious to you that Arian would make it into the top 4 of all time, because I'm a bit blown away by it. Because basically my first reaction to Arian Sherwind when I went into Inazuma 11 Go was Mark Evans was a really cool shonen-style, over-the-top protagonist who just loves football. Now I'm interested to see in a brand new trilogy with a slightly more serious tone if they might try a different kind of protagonist. In the end, it took until Victory Road, the 4th main protagonist, for them to actually take anything other than larger-than-life, happy, I love football. But Arian Sherwind shocked me because he was not only on Mark Evans' level of football positivity, he was actually further, treating football as a human being that he's mocked for both in and out of the canon universe. And he wasn't even getting any love interest plots like Mark was. He was simply football. That was him, along with his boundless enthusiasm and his ability to accidentally manipulate all of his school friends into going along with his football-related desires when they just want to protect their grades. But that's a discussion for another day. I didn't have the greatest initial reaction to Arian, and I've come to like him more and more over time. In particular, his scene in Chrono Stones, where he's just arguing with Alpha, like, I love football! Football means everything to me! That made me an Arian fan in and of that moment, and I think he's a great character in Galaxy, where he's a real fish out of water, and his positivity is clashing with the obvious bad team that he's been burdened with. So clearly Arian was always going to do well in this, just top 4 as a surprise, because he's the only one out of these 4 where I've also seen quite a lot of people not like him, per se. I've never been an Arian hater or anything like that, but he's definitely got some... I guess I use the word was quite operatively, because I feel like maybe I'm just old in that I was playing all the Inazuma stuff as it came out, and I think in more recent years, one of my commenters right over here, Paz, has told me Arian's really popular in Latin America, which is interesting trivia. I feel like Arian is someone who must have clearly grown a lot over time, and I've got no evidence for this, but also I guess most of the Inazuma fans I would talk to while playing the games originally were all guys, and now after following these polls for the last 6 months, Arian has a really strong female fan base, I think it's fair to say, and not in a oh my god they fancy him kind of way, just in a for whatever reason he seems to be a very popular character with the half of the fandom that I wasn't on. So it kind of explains how it's more easily missed. But if you do actually see Arian as this cutesy lovable type character rather than funny, I love football and he's my friend, you're going to make football cry guy, then yeah, he's got a lot of potential. So well done to Arian for making the top 4. And do let me know in the comments if anyone had that on their bingo cards. But let's look at the rest and see where some of the other obvious ones fell. Because Axel got wiped out by Mark. Ricardo put up a really good fight against Sean. Again, Sean Frost, unless your comments change the outcome, Sean Frost is going to win. I think it's either Sean or Mark for me as a prediction, but I think it's going to be Sean. So for Ricardo to make even that big of a dent is really, really impressive. Faye, in return, was going pretty even with Arian himself. Bylong brings us into round 6. So if the one we just looked at was the top 8, this is now the top 16. Of that 16, 5 of them were reinstated from previous rounds. So 5 of them had already been eliminated, and then they got straw polled back in, essentially because there was meant to be a round of 12, and then there was very famously an exact draw between 2 characters, which we'll get to. So once they got a 50-50, they both went through, and then they had to fill some extra spaces. So Bylong is one of the guys who was reinstated, and I didn't realise how close that was, actually. I was obviously a Bylong voter in this situation. You see how Arian's made the top 4, but he's done it by beating Faerun and Bylong. So he is beating characters from his own universe. It's been a while since he's been challenged by someone from the actual OG trilogy. So I do want to chase that back, kind of work out who is the most popular character that Arian actively beat. But this is not all just about Arian. This is about finding the most popular in general. So Bylong was eliminated twice during this tournament. If not for reinstations, he would have been out, I think, 2 whole rounds ago. But he kept getting brought back with a little bit of help from me, and then he would continuously lose as soon as he's brought back. But well done to him for putting up a fight against Arian. To see my second favourite character within the top 16 is fairly validating. Nathan is another shoe-in for the top 16, probably beyond, but I feel like the Aphrodite and the Nathan Swift fan bases are very similar. They're both feminine-looking guys who had that moment of turning to the dark side before going back to being heroes just within different seasons. So I noticed that a lot of people who like Nathan like Aphrodite, and vice versa, and that shows in how close it was. But Aphrodite did just about prevail in the end to reach the top 8, where he got Xaviered. Xavier, meanwhile, did eliminate Caleb Stonewall, but Caleb is another one where I'm really proud of him for making the top 16, because a bit like I was saying with Arian before, he's got a lot of people who like him. He's in my top 10 characters, for instance, even though I don't talk about him that much. He does also have a lot of people who don't like him. But he kept overcoming adversity, and he did make it into the top 16. Soul Daystar was also a slightly surprising Go representative within the top 16. He needed to be revived as well, only once this time, I think. He also kind of floated Faerun. So you can see how this set itself up, actually. Arian made it into the top 4, not just by beating Go characters himself, but even his opponents were fighting each other. Like, Faerun was his final opponent to get into the top 4, and Faye got there over Soul Daystar, while Arian beat Bylong. So that adds a bit of context already. This is why we're one-taking this. But nevertheless, Soul himself nearly won this. I sure voted for Soul Daystar, but Soul and Bylong, even though Soul always got slightly more votes than Bylong to bring him back, they still finish in joint 9th together. Mark Evans was the one to take out Victor Blade, so he's taken out all the Star Strikers. He even beat Elliot Ember, Hyzaki in like round 2 or 3, I believe. I keep having to open up Twitter on my iPad to get rid of my notifications, just so you don't have to look at them mid-video. I didn't prepare for having 6 Discord notifications along the bottom, but never mind. Victor could have beaten most characters here, I would say, but not Mark. Goldie is also someone who had huge potential, and I again think her being in the top 16 is not a surprise. Can you imagine if Goldie was in, like, season 2? She'd probably be in the top 4 at that point, but she also fell to a Go character. Funny how Random has done this one. Yeah, Jude got mollied. He hit the eventual champion, Sean Frost, within round 6, and he still took it close. 45% of the vote is a significant proportion. That basically says Jude probably could have made the top 4 most popular characters if it was seeded rather than being random. But too bad, somebody's got to fight Sean Frost, so it was you, and as a result, Jude gets at best 9th most popular status. We all know he could have beaten someone like Sol Daystar to move on, but it was not in his favour, so that is where the other kind of favourite fell by the wayside. Paolo is another one who, he wasn't needing to get revived during this tournament. He was actually just getting slightly fortuitous draws all the way there. But I was so glad for it. I voted for him every single time. I kind of secretly really, really like Fideo, Paolo Bianchi, as a character. I don't say it much on the channel. It's just because Paolo's one where I feel like it's the opposite of Arian. I was surprised to learn how big the Arian fan base actually is, whereas Paolo, I was more surprised to learn how small it is, because the Japan versus Italy arc and everything surrounding it in Season 3, to me that is peak Inazuma. That is where Inazuma was at its absolute highest. And Paolo is a huge reason why. So I just kind of took it for granted that Paolo was always going to be one of the most popular characters ever, and I never really ranted and raved about him in videos because I didn't think I'd need to. But I guess because he didn't come back for Go or for Ares or anything like that, he has slipped a bit over time, but this was his redemption arc. He made it to the top 16, albeit he didn't really beat anyone that notable along the way. I might be wrong about that. We'll have a look at some of his earlier matches as we go backwards, but it was not close against Axel. Here were the revivals. So apparently Aphrodite needed to be revived, but he was revived by we've lost it. Victor and Aphrodite were both revived with over 500 votes, which puts these other guys in the dust. So it was clear that he fought like a mega all-star and couldn't make it back. Yeah, Victor was eliminated by Jude, who Jude did not know what was coming for him. Does he know? Victor ended up doing a little bit better. Vylong was also eliminated by Faye, so he keeps coming up against Go guys and he keeps coming up close, but never could make it. Zanuck met the end of the road against Axel, but again, how many matches are there in this round? Got to do some maths. That was match 10 out of 10, which means the previous round was the top 16. This is the top 20, so this is only going to introduce 4 other characters. Technically, possibly more if there's somebody who got eliminated and then one of these revivals came from an earlier stage. But let's just work it out as we go along. Zanuck hit a impossible match at the end. This was Arian's big win. Right, yeah, this was when I had to start paying attention, because Arian had made it to round 5. That's expected. He's a main character. But when he came up against Aphrodite, I thought he was done for. Aphrodite is the definition of a fan favourite character. And he nearly won. There were over 8,000 votes in this one compared to, say, 2.1 thousand for Axel versus Zanuck, which is an obvious wipeout. Faerun and Bylon was really close, but still only 2.2 thousand votes. But this one, Aphrodite versus Arian, took the community by storm. It's got 4 times the amount of votes compared to the average match, which means that over 4,000 people voted for Aphrodite and over 4,000 people voted for Arian, and it was literally a 50 versus 49. Then obviously Aphrodite came straight back, but even if Arian's wins after this were just on his fellow Go brethren, this was a big statement to know that actually Matsukaze Tenma can be more popular than Aphrodite in 2023. I stood up and I respected it. Sol was beaten pretty handily by Nathan. He still managed to come back. This was the draw. 50-50 between Ricardo de Rigo and Mark Evans. And this was the other one that blew up. Because it's a 50-50 now, but I can tell you for sure that for half of this poll, Mark was dominating. It was something like 65 to 35 in favour of Mark, and it was going pretty slowly, but then at one point the Ricardo fans just woke up and they made this tweet practically go viral, and they mounted a huge comeback for Ricardo, which, again, if you're asking the whole Inazuma fandom of casual, like people in the... one of my Dutch friends told me that my mum would be able to tell you who Mark Evans is. Oh, it's the guy with the bandana. Or yeah, at least they'd tell you, they'd recognise the football guy with the bandana. But Ricardo, for him to get such a concentrated effort, I don't think he could do it again. I feel like if this poll was run twice, it wouldn't go viral a second time and then Mark would just win. But to get a literal 50-50 draw is incredible effort from Ricardo, and he did manage to extend his stay in the competition a little bit longer off the back of that. Aiden Frost was a real misnomer in this tournament because a lot of the time his picture was of his like adaptation in season 2 as a kid, and sometimes they even just use the picture of actual Sean Frost in his Aiden form. So Aiden Frost would just win every match in this poll right up until round 5 when he finally hit Xavier and died in the least close match that we've seen so far. I feel like this is one where people might have been a bit misled. I could not say in confidence that Aiden Frost is in the top 20 Inazuma 11 characters of all time, but we'll see who he beat along the way and what the images were to get to that point. Because he feels like the biggest exception, and he definitely didn't get brought back. This was where Gabby died. Hit Sean. You do not want to fight Sean when you're in this tournament. It was not close. I kind of thought he might have got brought back, though. I feel like he would have been higher up the list than Sol Daystar for revival, but it didn't happen, so that's too bad. Paolo beat Celia. Celia is someone who also gets a regular boost in these tournaments because Ayaz, bless him, is a very unbiased host of these tournaments. He does a really good job of putting a thing like this out to such a big community. But the one aspect of his actual personality that he injects into this stuff is this art he's got is a redrawing of Celia, but instead it's himself. And when the poll started, and the several years before that, the art was literally just of Celia waving, or Otonashi Haruna. So this has always been a Celia-themed account, and whenever Celia is about to lose, he will make a tweet about it. And this is the single character where he will fully inject his personality into it. And fair play, you know, you're running the tournament for us. You're allowed to tell people to vote for Celia in your own poll. But Paolo was the one to eliminate her within the top 20, which is a big win for my boy, honestly. Jack Wallside got pretty far. Hit Goldie Lemon. That seems like a kind of natural stopping point. Wow. The first character from Aries and Orion is Ichihoshi Hikaru. Is he the only one? Oh, that's the previous round. Okay, never mind. There will be more then. Yeah, that was the top 20. So we'll just carry back on into looking at round 4. Match 20, so that means there were 40 characters at this point in time. So for Ichihoshi to make the top 40, yes, that's believable. If he was in the top 20, I would have been shocked, because Philip Starr, shall I be calling him now? Well, not Philip Starr, because that's not the smiley version doing this move. We'll find out Hikaru's dub name in a few weeks when the Orion Portuguese dub gets to that point. But yeah, he was absolutely obliterated by Nathan Swift, but well done to him for getting there. Xavier Schiller could have stood a chance against someone else. Zach Avalon was such an imposter in this. I remember that all of Zach's matches up to this point were against nobodies. I feel like he got the single easiest round 3 draw in the whole thing. We'll check who that is later, but obviously Aphrodite absolutely demolished him. Well done to him for getting into the top 40 Inazuma characters of all time, though. Anyway, Eric Eagle got beat by Sol Daystar. Sylvia. It's always interesting to see the images he chooses for the managers in this, because usually if it's football player against football player, he'll pick like one of the character and one doing a move, but the managers can't do that, so he always has to dive into the library to get something balanced, but ultimately still couldn't stop the Fae train. Aitor is somebody who does really well in these things generally, and I feel like he would have beaten Celia on an account that wasn't literally Celia's #1 fan. Aitor, I was never that big of an Aitor fan myself, but he's really popular with the Go fandom. Like, I've seen more Aitor stands than Arian stands until this year, but interesting to see that change. Caleb was eliminated early on, that's why they had to bring him back, but he hit Ricardo as well. Ricardo has had such a hard path to get to the top 8. Well done to him for getting there. Hector Helio didn't do as well as Paolo. He hit Zanuck early on, and to be fair, I couldn't have predicted how that one was going to go. In fact, if you held me at gunpoint, I think I probably would have predicted Hector Helio to win that one, but I think I did vote for Zanuck, and I'm glad he made it. Oh, that's another pretty big win for Arian along the way that's worth noting. It's another Go character, so you can't watch Beta in the show without also watching Arian at the same time, but Beta's got a lot of fanboys, and they were enough to get a 38% of the vote, but I think over time people have started to protest vote against Beta as well, because you're either into that kind of rowdy teenage girl personality, or you don't give a toss. So Arian did make it past that one. Wonderbot was the other absolute imposter in this. I love Wonderbot, but no way will he make the 4th round ever again. He got demolished by Gabby, who got demolished in the next round after this. When you find out what Wonderbot's bracket path is in, it will start to make sense. But definitely he was lucky, shall we say. Tezcat is somebody who really got screwed over. Tezcat is a popular character, and he's kind of on the same level as Bylong. I remember there were some Japanese character polls where Tezcat was actually considered more popular than Bylong, but he hit an absolute fan favourite in Victor, and I feel like because he was eliminated so early, people just didn't remember to bring him back. So, rip Tezcat, he's still got 30% against a character as popular as Victor. So, gotta rate that. Deleting my notifications in the background. Thank you for DMing me, Mr. Slap. Paolo beat Nelly Ryman. So, you know what? He's actually had quite a difficult path, all things considered. He just squeaked that one out with 51%. Bylong, meanwhile, only had to beat David Sanford. I say only. David Sanford's pretty popular, but he's not like a main character. He's someone who just gets a lot of praise from being introduced into the series so early on and being in Inazuma Japan, all of that. Poor Tori didn't stand a chance. She hit the Sean train. Yeah, man. Yeah, this one sucked. Like, I got my second favourite character in Bylong to the top 16. My #1 favourite in Jordan didn't even make it past the 4th round because he encountered his actual best friend, who is still in the tournament with only 4 competitors left. And if he draws Arian, he's probably making the top 2. He might be able to beat Mark. He won't beat Sean. But there's a chance that this is a top 2 character, and Jordan had to hit him here, which is cruel. I was devastated at that. I didn't get to make any viral tweets sticking up for my guy like I did the year before. Hurley also hit Jude Sharp giga early, and that's just a shame. That's somebody who potentially could have pushed for at least the top 30 if the format allowed. Bash Lancer, I forgot about him. He won some crazy matchups to get here. Jack Wallside was the one to stop him, just like in the movie itself. But I need to remember who Bash Lancer beat on this, because this was one of the guys I had to like make my own quote retweet and say, is Bash Lancer really that popular? Bad App Sleed, how has he beaten the level of character that he's beaten? Because to me, he's just generic movie bad guy from a movie that wasn't even good. So, like, I don't get the appeal of Bash Lancer whatsoever. But he's completely defied my expectations in this. Can't wait to remember who he actually beat. Hillman got owned. Aiden Frost, yeah, that's a picture of Sean from Season 2 alongside the Ares version, which is just, it feels like giving him a boost, because people see Sean, people hit vote. Surely people don't vote for this. I'm waving my cursor that's not there, but surely people don't vote for this Aiden over Lena Schiller. Maybe they do, I guess, but we'll see what the other ones were. Gamma made it here and promptly exited. Okay, so this was our other revival. Yeah, Jordan had lost another match before this as well. He was the unluckiest guy in this. Let's just go up and down. So 7 characters got revived to be in that round. There was Xavier Schiller in 7th, Aitor in 6th, Gabby in 5th, Beta in 4th, Hurley Kane in 3rd. Jordan was 2nd. That, out of all the defeated characters, he was the 2nd most desired comeback, and he ran straight into Xavier Foster. That is absolutely insane, my poor guy. And then Soul actually won by a big margin, so the fact that he made the top 16 feels kind of deserved just based on that alone. He wiped out all of these guys by himself. And was the only... Oh no, never mind. He's not the only Go revival of that group. But so this one, 32 matches. So that means there was 64 Inazuma characters at this stage. We lost characters such as Roma, Mizukamiya. Wait, so that means other than Aiden Frost, Ichihoshi Hikaru really was the highest placing Ares and Orion exclusive character. Wow. Damn, I mean, we'll see what his route was, but that's an unexpected discovery of this. Akaris was always he's in my top 10 characters. I voted for him every step of the way, but he beat some good characters to make it this far, but it was always unbelievably close. To me, it's like you put a top tier Orion character against an upper mid tier character from the OG trilogy, and the upper mid tier from the OG trilogy is probably going to win. And Akaris had a couple of opponents roughly like that to stick by. In the end, Tezcat destroyed him. Yeah, this was one of the reasons why we needed a revival round, because Nelly and Zanuck got an exact draw, so they both moved on. And that's a very interesting set of characters to get a precise draw. Who knew that Nelly Ryman and Zanuck Avalonic were equally popular, down to 2,600 voters? Neptune was here for some reason. This was how Gamma got that far. Neptune nearly won as well. 40% of the votes went to random alien guy from Season 2 because he's from Season 2. But yeah, Li Hao is one of those characters where if he was in the original trilogy, he probably would have made the top 20 as well. Li Hao would be so popular if he didn't debut all the way in Orion. He probably wouldn't have beaten Goldie, to be fair, but Lee was another one of those where he just barely made it to round 3. He deserved to be there, but he had to, properly rally the fans to beat some random nobody from Season 2. Oh, that was why Hurley lost. He had to fight Mark Evans, who, again, is in the top 4. Soul also came up against a bit of a counterpart in Nathan Swift. Couldn't win that, but was swiftly revived. Sky Blue made it to round 3, which is a shock, to put it politely. This is the best Sky Blue will ever do in any fan popularity poll. I'm trying to find... Like, that was the point of the Sky Blue Monday project, to see if anybody cared about Sky Blue, and it seems that nobody did. Or at least it was to make ourselves like Sky Blue more, and it didn't work. So Sylvia wins. Ruger got that far, which is pretty nice to see. Falco is somebody who usually does relatively well in these type of things as a Go Galaxy rep. Again, case in point, the highest ranking Go Galaxy exclusive character in this entire tournament was Zach Avalon. And that's how you know that randomness does still play a part. I would say roughly the top 16 is about aligned with what you would expect. But down here in the depths, you get some really random eliminations, like Falco hitting Caleb that early on. Jordan was eliminated by Ricardo in the 3rd round, came back and hit Xavier, and I wanted to cry. Mark Kruger was hanging about. Caden Soundtown was my vote in for this poll. Like, there were so many characters in this tournament, including a few OCs. Everybody could nominate one character each, and I kind of knew guys like Jordan and Ozrock and Bylan were already going to be there, so I used my vote to get Caden Soundtown in. As far as I can tell, nobody else nominated him, and he lived up to it, making the 3rd round before hitting Axel Blaze. That's a surefire way to get rid of somebody. I did end up managing to get another character into this because I literally just begged IS to put them in for me, but we'll get to that. Dusk Grayling versus David Sanford is another case where if Dusk was in the OG trilogy and Sanford was an Ares character, then this wouldn't even be close. Dusk would absolutely wipe the floor with David Sanford, but because David Sanford's got, I would say, the nostalgia bonus and a bit of the pretty boy factor, he absolutely annihilated Nishikage. Spotter was one of the long-running jokes of this, and that could have continued a lot further. This is Arian's dog. He won 2 matches before this in an absolute just demolition derby. Spotter destroyed his first 2 opponents. The only way to beat the dog was to put him against a literal all-star, and current finalist Xavier did do it. But wait until you see the voting percentiles for Spotter earlier on in this. Kevin is a real victim of the random draw. Jude killed him early. Sean Frost hit Torch. Nice picture for it, at least. Yeah, Zach Avalon just drew Desmodus Dracul. It's like, yeah, Zach wins. I suppose he's technically the more important character. Bashland said, okay, well, beating Rusty, I could kind of understand, I guess. Celia took out Cronus. Dave Quagmire had to go pretty early, thanks to Paolo. So if I said Paolo had an easy route earlier in this video, I was wrong. I take it back. Paolo had an unbelievably challenging run all the way through at every single step, and I'm so pleased that he didn't lose. There's a nice easy win for Bylong. Mercury hit a main character and had to bow out in the 3rd round. Chinkwadea is not somebody I've ever particularly liked, and that was reflected with a 6.3% share of the votes. Lol. Beta was first eliminated by Victor, which makes enough sense to me. Hector wailed on the commentator. Fun fact, this image is not even Chester Horse Jr. It was another brand new commentator character they introduced in Ares by the name of Chesney, I think. Chesney Horse Jr. But I can hardly blame you for using the picture. I would assume they were the same character as well. Steve and Eric looking a bit similar there. Eric won. Scott Banyan did well to make it that far. Keenan hit Jack, which was a shame. I wanted to see Keenan make a deep run, but Jack is an OG mainstay. Yeah, this is one where I thought, okay, Aiden Frost can maybe win this on the prestige of the Ares character, but you see how badly the other Ares characters are going. People, I feel like, are voting for just the idea of Sean Frost's brother, because I think Tiago Torres is a much better character, to be quite honest, and I kind of thought Aiden would win, but I didn't think it would be this uneven. Wonderbot made it here by beating Bunny. To be honest, the more I think about it, I probably would have expected Bunny to win that, actually. But either way, one of them was heading to round 4, which stuck out like a sore thumb when you had like Jude versus Kevin at the same time. Yeah, Philip Starr, because that is Philip Starr in the first of the 2 images, beat Malcolm Knight. So this was a one-time case of Orion characters getting floated. Let's have a quick breeze through the second round now. Those were some statistics, which is good to read. Orion had 2 characters at that point already, and Ares had 4, which is depressing that people think that lowly of the modern seasons. But this was 64 matches, which means 128 Inazuma characters. So we'll just look at the pure highlights. Falco beat Plink. Sylvia beat Bellatrix, which is quite a hard one to do, actually. That's pretty unpredictable. Ray Dark fell to Seymour Hillman. This was a proper good versus bad moment, and I absolutely voted for Ray Dark for what it's worth, but apparently people favoured the hero on this occasion. Seymour wins. The other Scream of Eden guy lost to Dave Quagmire. That was Philip Starr's other win. Hikaru's win on Destra. A random scout floated Scott Banyan through. This image always kills me of Jack Wallside. He uses it so often and it makes me laugh every time. He beat Wolfram. Aitor barely lost to Lena. Yeah, this was the moment I realised Lena's got a good amount of sway in this tournament, and then she just loses to Aiden Frost. I was like, never mind, I guess she doesn't have significant sway. She can beat Aitor, but not Aiden. That to me stands out as odd, but it was by the narrowest of margins. This one. Yes, Pants was my other nomination for the tournament. Like, I submitted Cadence, the thing was about to begin, and I just realised, wait, we need Pants! And I just begged him, and he's like, seeing as it's you, and he put Pants in for me, and she did win a match, clearly, to get to this point, but then Bro put my 3rd favourite character against my 2nd favourite character in round 2. Pants lost to Bylong. And if you combine that with the cruelty that Jordan faced in this tournament as well, it's a miracle I even got Bylong into the top 16, because this was actively stacked against me, to be honest. My favourites got owned in this. We'll see in a bit who Pants actually beat, but yeah, Bylong wiped the floor with her. But I'm just glad she was there in the first place. Big main character striker of Ares and Orion loses to more popular defender of original trilogy, and that is fair. I would vote for Hurley Kane in a heartbeat as well, but it would have been nice to see Elliot get a little bit further just to represent Ares in general. Lee Howe barely, by the skin of his teeth, beat Mike. And this one hurt bad, because Mike is also one of my random favourites of all time. But Lee Howe barely won his round 1 when it should have been an absolutely obvious call. So this one was either I get my stupid, silly little favourite through to round 3 before he immediately loses, or people can actually put some respect on Lee Howe's name. And in the end, we basically got neither. Mike got eliminated. Lee Howe did win, but it was by such a narrow margin against such an unimportant character that they basically both lost in this moment. Terry hit Aphrodite in round 2, and that is so sad. Because Terry, along with Falco, is the other Go Galaxy character who actually stands a chance in these things. People like Terry, and I really like Terry, but he can't deal with Aphrodite. Come on, man. Random hates me while Bunny just farmed a literal nobody, and it was still close. Cannon Evans got beat by Hector Helio. Mizukamiya scrapes by Sue Hartland by the skin of his teeth. And that was another one like Lee Howe versus Mike, which made me cringe. Because Lee Howe just barely beat full random. Whereas Mizukamiya, another really good Orion character, barely beat somebody that the fan base actively dislikes. I, for one, am a big Sue Hartland fan. I think she's incredibly underrated, and I think she brings a lot of value and novelty to the show, and especially the games. But people don't like her, generally speaking. She's got her fans, clearly, especially the people who like to ship her with Tori. But for one of the absolute best in Ares and Orion to barely squeak past somebody from the OG trilogy that's actively a bit hated was the moment I realised Ares and Orion didn't stand a chance in this thing. Torch beat the other Chester horse. David Sanford beat Rondula. Aiden Frost in the second round only beat a very popular character in Joe King. And again, it's like, should he have? Are you evaluating Aiden Frost based on Aiden Frost? Or are you rating Sean Frost here? But the people spoke, so Aiden wins. Joe went home almost immediately. Ricardo's one easy match in the entire thing was this. Beta got a Scout. Arian got a Draken Yale. Lucian Dark went out almost straight away to Xavier. That sucks for him. That was why Chester got to the third round in the first place. He beat Infinity Beyond. Charisse lost to Ruger in an all-go Galaxy matchup, and a rare one where the not main character beat the main character. I just assumed Charisse would win because main characters tend to do really well in this, but she didn't. They went for the funny side character, so fair enough. Zach Avalon, I'll be honest, I voted for Angelo and I thought Angelo was going to win, but no, Zach moved on pretty comfortably. Austin Hobbs was out of this before it even began. That was kind of wild, but he's not the most popular member of Inazuma Japan anyway. He probably could have made round 4 maximum, I would say. Endo Haru was in this, but it was before we knew what we know about his personality now. He lost to his own mum, which is hilarious. Dusk Grayling barely got past Demonio. I mean, thank God he did. Billy Miller got eviscerated by Mark Kruger. Simeon Ape, yikes. Out in round 2 by hitting Victor. That's brutal. I wanted to see more Simeon in this. Steve got a win. Mercury got one. Professor Layton characters were in this because they're technically in Inazuma 11, but they mostly got protest voted against, like the Rusty win here. Eric Eagle beats Flora by a bigger margin than I expected. The one Tory win. Well, second Tory win. Sol Daystar got rid of Willie Glass. Coronas. Ah, yeah, Goldie versus Gabby happened this early on. Thankfully, Gabby did get revived, but he only got revived once. We couldn't save him again like we did with Bylong, but what a match that was. Alpha lost to Roma, and I was a bit sad about that one. I thought Alpha maybe could have brought enough people together to win that one, but it wasn't to be. Keenan wailed on Kaiser. Chinkwadea got a win on Sam, and to be honest, I'm amazed. I thought Sam would win. Just, inoffensive Season 1 character versus can be quite offensive Go 1 character. That one happened. There was Neptune getting his free win. Malcolm Knight doing the same. Percival Travis went out in the second round, and that was criminal. Mark Evans, I don't forgive you for this. 11% of the vote as well. It could have been more even than that. I think Coach Travis is a way more interesting character to watch than Mark Evans, but you can't argue with main character syndrome. This was how Wonderbot got so far. JP, Wonderbot's a little bit disliked in some areas of the fandom. JP is disliked in all areas of the fandom. And he was only in round 2, I think, because he got some random scout in round 1. Wonderbot, literally, Bunny's growingly popular, but has a few haters out there as well. Wonderbot got to round 4 just by beating other disliked characters when he himself isn't even that popular. And that, to me, was so funny. JP got what he deserved. Jordan's only win that we see so far was against actual Professor Layton. Barlow lost to Gamma. Tiago beat Tom Skipper. Sky Blue got her second win, was on a random member of Apostles from the Sky. Desmodus got that. Paolo took out Archer Hawkins in round 2. Paolo and Ricardo have had the hardest paths. I'll completely shut up. Yeah, this was just validating to know that Paolo does have fans, and I should be more vocal in joining them. 4.9% for Derek Swing there. He lost to his own teammate. Mecha Mark is somebody I was so excited for in these polls, and he hit my own nominee. Like, I nominated Caden Soundtown to be in this tournament, and then I voted for Mecha Mark. I do like Mecha Mark even more, I think, but yeah, Mecha Mark lost. It was closer than I expected. Kevin beat an OC before he met his fate against Jude. Regina Mulgrave is not popular, so she got Nathaned. Spotter got 80% of the vote against Ug. Thank you to Delise for telling me how to actually pronounce that. Camellia Travis, she's important, but she got shawned. Tezcat beat Gazelle, which still takes some doing. There was Sonny Wright. He won one match, and then, yeah, he had 15% against Faerun LeMayo. This was one where David Evans was way in the lead, and then Ayaz used his "please save Celia" powers to get people to save Celia, and it worked, but that's fine. Like, I do genuinely think Celia is a better character than David Evans anyway. I was surprised to see Dave in the lead, but this was a really interesting one because these characters have nothing to do with each other, and it was genuinely super close. Poor Sandra. She deserved better than that. Bash Lancer just wiped the floor with Giris. It shouldn't be that uneven. Nakata got Zanuck. Unlucky. And then we look at the round 1s for anything important. Hurley and Nathan apparently had the biggest wipeout wins within round 1, but yeah, we got Ozrock going out in round 1 to the bloody dog. I lost one of my top 10 characters of all time in round 1 to a dog. And bear in mind, this was the second to last match of the entire first round, which had taken 128 matches to get there. I was starting to worry if Ozrock wasn't even in the tournament at all, despite him being nominated. He was, he just made us wait for the final 4, only to get absolutely pasted by a dog. And I had no words. Ogar lost to a random scout. I guess people really don't like him. Lump Trungus was here. A relatively easy win for Philip's brother. There's a big win for Coach Travis, but it was the only win he would ever get. Yeah, Mizukamiya is a main character in Ares and Orion. How is he dropping 27% of the votes to a random player on Wild Junior High and not even one of the popular ones? I literally don't get it. Arthur got wiped by Tori. There's Nathan. Sue got to round 2 by beating poor old Frankie Works' character. We'll put that full screen just for fair comparison. It did still get 20% of the vote. I say it, although don't know. He, she, they, not sure. Antonio, so probably he. Cammy was pretty close against Claire Snow. Okay. There was Lucian. Gammon Shaka, poor guy. He didn't stand a chance against the main character, but I wish he did. Yeah, this, what the hell? How did Lee Howe only beat the The Spain captain from season 3, not Clario, but Victor Garcia, by 1%. Who allowed this to... Well, the reason it happened is because this picture of Lee Howe doesn't show you his face, and then this picture of Lee Howe doing a move also doesn't show you his face. So I think people genuinely just didn't know who he was, or only knew, like, Mr. Yi's assistant, but not the actual player, Lee Howe. But if Lee Howe lost that, I think I would have quit within the first round. That would have been ever so bad. Sonny only beat Stern, who is effectively an LBX character. Mike beat an OC who got into the show. This was a fan-designed character, but made it into the real show. But not as good as Mike. Lol. There was Malcolm. Scott Banyan beat Dylan, so that's at least one actual win for him. Gabby beating Rex. Raydark beating Astaroth before folding to Hillman. The actual singer of T-Pistons lost to Infinity Beyond, which is an insult. You should have, if you voted for Infinity Beyond, you should feel bad. Why would you vote for one of Go's worst characters to beat this man? He is a delight. He is a treat. He sang all of your favourite songs, and he does have a scout in the game, so he counts. For Ton Nino, the singer of T-Pistons, to be eliminated by this guy is possibly the worst outcome in the entire thing. Preston Princeton lost to Destra. Ew. Preston sweep next time, please. There's Chester. That's not Teenan, that's Rondula. Sandra beat Rosie Red in a pretty close one, to be fair. One of the singers of the Berries, I believe, lost to Rusty. So that means Rusty beat two non-Inazuma characters twice. He beat Luke Triton and Urina from the Berries to make it to round 3. That's funny as hell. Oh, sorry, Eureka Stans. I forgot she lost to Steve in the first round. Jade Green also got eliminated by Tiago. Jade's a good character, so I thought Tiago was carrying a lot of momentum, and then he just got wiped out by Aiden Frost, so that momentum died real quick. Imposter Victor should have won this by a landslide. I don't know if people just saw this guy and didn't know who he was, but why is Chester Horse Jr. beating an Imposter is Among Us Victor Sussy Blade? Cannot explain that one. That's a pretty aligning set of characters. One of the Murdochs lost to Wolfram, because I guess you don't even know which Murdoch brother you're actually voting for. Scion Blaze was here. Oh, skipped ahead a bit. Hero, nice to see one of my LBX guys. Arata Senna didn't even have a line in the movie, did he? Like, he got 3% because nobody knows who he is, and he's not in the games whatsoever. He's only in the crossover movie. Random Team Ogre versus Team Ogre match. This was the one match where an OC actually won. I believe Natalie Blackburn was the coach of maybe Saudi Arabia or Uzbekistan in Orion. It was one of the national teams, but lost to a character not even from the series. Just on account of design. So the people spoke. Roland Kleimstein, my goat. He died in round 1 to a character that I don't even like. That's annoying. Cliff was never getting very far. This is a surprise. I thought Downtown could have beaten Daniel Hatch easily. Bobby lost in round 1 to Simeon in the only win Simeon would get. Gus Martin hit. This one feels rigged. They did not want the Gus Martin stands carrying him all the way through the tournament. So he was put up against another absolute mega fan favourite, and Beta got rid of him. There was Troy getting another win. He's a literal nobody. I love this guy, the Barcelona goalkeeper with the bubbles. I thought he should have won this one without even blinking. Like, this other guy, is he from a cult? I literally don't know who he is. But if people haven't watched Orion, then I guess they can't vote for him, which sucks. Edgar Partonus. Even in round 1, Sean was taking slightly notable victims. Who the hell is Edgar? Says Inazuma 11 perfect picks. And that was it. That was it for him. Paul Peabody. That was Cadence's win. That was Regina's win. Bylong had to take out Valentine straight away, which takes some work. Cherise. Mechamark beat Gabriella, so 2 of my favourite goalkeepers in the same match, but had to back my boy Mechamark. Pretty much every member of Royal Academy is in this tournament, apparently, and a cult at this rate. Alpha's win. Poor Darren LeChance. He was so close as well. Like, this is unbelievable. This was a round 1 matchup between Bellatrix and Darren LeChance, and then the winner also lost in the next round. That was random at its cruelest. Shadow died there. There was Mark Evans finally getting a non-lethal win. Dave Quagmire making his start. Favourite. Oh, how have we got on here then? We're back. Sylvia. Another important Orion character, but even I wouldn't ever think to vote for Malik Kouabel. I bet I forgot about him the moment the season was over. Paolo swept. Trevor lost to Billy Miller. I don't remember that. I would have thought Trevor could win that, but it was pretty much 50-50, so fair enough. The worst villain in the series got wiped by a Royal Academy defender. Oh, Wonderbot beat Adekebe. That's a genuine win. What the heck? Ade should be winning that every time. Okay, well, I guess maybe Wonderbot does have some big fans out there as well. That was the start of Zach Avalon's journey to round 4. Go Galaxy only matchup. Keenan had to take out Frank. There went Claria. The fact that the Season 3 Spain captain got more votes than the Orion Spain captain makes me so angry, even if his opponent was Tezcat. Trina lost to Demonio. Oh dear. This was a match between 2 characters not from Inazuma 11, and I still didn't get the outcome I wanted. I was a Van believer. Heathmore died to Axel in round 1. Bro didn't even get off the starting line. Rip Ares, rip Orion. Gurami. I love the Gurami Stan sector of Twitter, but it's a very small sector, so it wasn't enough to beat a character of actual importance, sadly. I did vote for him, though. Hugues Bado did get 1. Imposter version of Sonny was the first foe of Arian, who is still in it to this day. Any other important ones? Oh, Froy lost to Elliot Ember. So again, Elliot might have gone a bit further if he didn't hit somebody so important like Hurley Kane in the second round. Got some OCs losing. I think there was only 1 OC that won in the entire thing. Kaiser somehow won a match because literally, who is this? Who thought to nominate Elias VC from Dragon Link, I guess. Right. Nate from Yokai Watch lost. Dave Evans got started. Joe King eliminated Xavier Schiller in round 1, by the way, and Xavier Schiller got revived a whole 3 or 4 rounds later. I can imagine a lot of people maybe thought they were voting for the other Xavier in the process, granted, but he still came back and then he lost again. Poor Petronio. Well, is it poor Petronio? What do we think of the Italian team in Orion? Not that highly. Plink got a win. Jordan beat me. I lost to Jordan. There was Flora. There was Nikata. Anything else? Jude started by beating an actual chicken. Todd Ironside lost in round 1. Hillman got some serious wins in his short stay in this tournament. Timmy lost to Bunny. And yet Bunny got so wiped out in her Wonderbot defeat and went close with another random in round 2. So I don't know how she was able to beat Tim before going so close with the others, but fair enough. Guess Tim just isn't that popular. Basil Hardy went out straight away. There was a picture of a Ryan version of Basil, so I did probably vote for him, to be quite honest, but it wouldn't have mattered. We all know it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, Pants' win came against Lars Lucifer from Team Ogre. That's a real guy. And half of 2,000 people banded together to vote Pants through. Thank you. This is my personal thanks for allowing that to happen. That was a real serious dub. And then she got Bylong. Buddy Fury got eliminated by default, effectively. Adriano, that was a shame. I like that guy, and he is literally Akihiro Hino's favourite character. And I will remind people of that trivia until the end of the earth. But I guess the fandom prefers Jack Wallside, of course. Aurelia losing to Neptune was wild. How did this happen? Yes, she's only a character in Ares, but she's still been in the Inazuma game since the very first one. I thought she wouldn't just be like exclusively seen as an Ares character. She had enough OG material to help her compete with just a random striker on prominence, but I guess not. I was shocked by that one. This was the one legitimate win that a non-Inazuma character actually got. Professor Layton beat Chang-Soo Choi before getting wiped out by Jordan. So you can have your own stance on that. What have we got left? Wan Lee didn't do very well at all. KMC, the rapper of the T-Pistons songs, he got a win, whereas T-Pistons lost to literally who? Katie from Go Galaxy, from Yokai Watch was in Go Galaxy, but not for long. Eugene died. Let's just really... That was the one win that JP got. It was on a required scout, but a scout nonetheless in Eugene Conwell. Saw got 12% of the votes, so that tells you what people think of that character in the fandom. There was Sky Blue's first win. Archer Hawkins got at least one. Zippy. Man, it was not a good time to be a Go Galaxy character. They weren't unpopular. They all just got really horrible draws. Yeah, I am you, but better. And the BTEC Aphrodite versus Aphrodite went exactly as you would expect. There's Aiden Frost getting a complete wipeout, but fair enough in that case. Argy Bargy, I'm so sad that he had to fight Goldie right out of the gates. Thor didn't stand a chance. He was the second elimination of the whole thing, along with Gigi. I love that guy, but I do like Coach Lena more, I guess. So, yeah, he did need to lose in that draw. But there you go. That's the whole tournament. I didn't think this video was going to take an hour and 7 minutes, but I just kind of got into it. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And leave your predictions. Who is going to win out of Mark, Arian, Sean and Xavier? Or rather, who's going to join Sean in the final? And who are some characters that did better than you expected? Who are some characters you agree or disagree with the fandom on? Right, I'm going to go now. Thanks for watching. If you saw this entire thing, bye.